What's up, people? This is Tyler coming at you with another video. Now, before you all click off of here, I know everyone's like wham when they see books. Now just hear me out. This whole video is not meant to just tell you to read books. There's a complete reason behind it. There's a reason why I do it. There's a reason why it's changed my life, and there's a reason why it can change yours too. Immediately when someone says books, they're all just like, they turn their heads like, oh my gosh, the thing I had to read in high school. You need to forget that whole mindset, because it's gonna kill you. Put all your limiting beliefs behind about books, and I'm gonna get right into why books have changed my life and why you should start reading one every week. First, let's get into the types of books I read. Now, a lot of people, when they think of books, they think of fiction books. Fiction books, honestly, not a big fan. I don't think there's much to get out of them other than a few of them. I know some people have other opinions about that. Pretty much all the books I read are nonfiction. Why? Because there's usually a tons to learn about a book, and they're usually made by people much smarter than me that I can learn a crazy amount from. For example, here are some of the books I read. We got books from Phil Knight, which is the guy who created Nike. We have books on day trading. I was into that at one point. We have Principles by Ray Dalio. He's the guy that runs the investing firm Bridgewater. And then down at the bottom, we have the book by Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm sure you all know about him. I have Malcolm X over here, Tony Robbins. This is a guy that survived a concentration camp. The point is, these books are all based off of true stories, and there's much to learn from them. All right, now that we have our base set, let's get into the first reason why you should read a book a week. First reason, and probably the number one reason that I started, it will change your life. It's gonna change your perspective, how you think, how you feel, both mentally and physically. It's really just the stuff you're gonna learn is just, it's crazy. The only way I can really show you this is by you doing it yourself. The things you're gonna learn are just stuff you would never think of, and you're not gonna really get it from TV, because a lot of times these people, these authors, don't make movies. They usually will just write books, which is why only these ideas are gonna be in books. The people that write these books, sometimes they're not even alive still. Person you've never really met and never probably will meet, to have everything someone's learned over their entire life in just 200 pages, I think that's just amazing. That's like downloading all their knowledge they've ever accumulated right into your brain. Now, it changed your life. I'm saying this because it changed mine. I've always been somewhat of a reader. I used to read as a little kid. Really early on in my high school career, I started getting into nonfiction books. Before that, I was all into the traditional routes usually. I never really thought of entrepreneurship and all the things it offers. I read one book. I think it started with The Millionaire Fastlane, if you want to look that book up. That book just flipped my mind all the way around, and that pretty much made me the person I am today. It literally took all my beliefs that I have and just turned them upside down. And I think that's the power of books that a lot of people don't understand, is they can literally alter your life. Now, it also was a reason that I started to not like school as much. Reason is, I believe that if you buy the textbook for a class, say in college, you can pretty much read the whole thing and you're gonna be able to teach the class. All you have to do is stay a chapter ahead of the class. So that's why I've never really been a fan of going to classes in college. I think you can just read the textbook and get the same, if not more, knowledge about the subject than the instructor that's teaching you. Which is funny, because when you think of school, you usually think of books, but in my case, I feel that school is taken away from my education through books. I really think one of the reasons many people hate books and despise them is because of school too. I think forcing someone to read is not a good way of making them want to read. Books have become a way for you to literally learn from the best without having to meet the best. Now that we know how a book has changed your life, let's get into point number two. Point number two is it keeps your mind right. By consistently reading, it continues to strengthen the mindset I've developed over these last 2 to 3 years. I think by continuing to read, it's continued to add to that mindset that I originally got from that first book I read. Now, in order for a book to keep your mindset right, you're going to need to read them often, which is why I say read one a week. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to read one a week. I know that can be a lot, especially when you're just starting to read again. I just recommend maybe trying one book a month to start out. The effort's gonna count in the beginning. Final part of this point is it's gonna really level you up, and you're gonna see progress within yourself. The amount of stuff you can learn through a book is, honestly, it's mind-blowing. I think books can make you 20 to 30 years wiser than your age. When you're learning from people who have done all sorts of extraordinary things, it starts to pretty much rub off on you as you read. And I think that really does magic to your own mindset. In a way, reading books is very much working on yourself and leveling yourself up. As you can see, books can change your life and also keep you going in that upwards direction. Now, I know you still probably have your doubts and you're thinking, well, if I read books, I'm gonna look like a nerd. And that gets us to our third point. Now, the truth about this is, if you're reading books and someone calls you a nerd, just tell them who's gonna be laughing in 5 years. Honestly, that's all you have to say. The funny part about reading books I found is, as I said earlier, they make you wiser and you start to notice how stupid people who are that say these things. And you might even find books boring, and I think that's contributed to a lot of stuff in high school when we were forced to read things, and when we've been forced to read stuff through education. The truth is, I hate reading books for school. I absolutely hate it. I despise it, and I don't do it. But when it comes to reading books such as these, I'm gonna read them. A lot of times I hear people say, oh, I haven't read this book since high school, and then they all laugh about it like it's some kind of accomplishment. Yeah, that's sad. A lot of people who say that say it around me, and they don't know I actually read that much, so I always find it funny when they're hating on books, and I'm over here being the one that reads a book a week. I find it funny how they try to impress me with that by saying that, when really it's not impressing me at all. In fact, it's doing the opposite. Now, I understand that some people may not be able to read, some people may not enjoy reading necessarily, like even these type of books that I'm talking about. There's another way to do this. There's an alternative. It's called audiobooks. That is an alternative that I think works also very well if you don't want to actually read it yourself. You can just listen to it on your way to work or while you're doing something, while you're doing laundry. I think there's plenty of ways to read books without actually reading them, if that makes any sense. Pretty much to sum up this point, if people make fun of you for reading a book, that's just sad on their part. At the end of the day, you're gonna come out much better with much more progress than they are. They're gonna see the success you've made, and they're gonna ask how you did it, and you're gonna say I read books, and they're gonna be like, well, I was stupid that whole time. That's really all I have to say about reading, and that's why you should definitely look into reading. Those 3 reasons right there are why you should start trying to read a book a week. If not, trying to read a book a month. If not that, try to read a book every 3 months. I don't know, the point is just start reading. And seriously, if you make this a habit, it will literally be the best thing you've ever done. I think it's one of the best things you can possibly do. You're gonna learn an extraordinary amount, and it's gonna literally change your life, make you a completely different person than you started with. And I'm here to be an example of that. It literally changed me. If I was to give you any life advice, to give anyone any life advice, it would be find a nonfiction book, read it, apply it, and most importantly, apply it. If you're not applying anything in these books, there's no point. Read a nonfiction book, apply it, and repeat. That would be my biggest life advice to anyone.